Legacy of a King, a Legacy series novel by Charlene Sponsel. Chapter 10, Becoming a Pawn. 62nd day of summer, 4:48. My heart skipped a beat, and my skin tingled, but I forced myself to hold my position. I am impressed with your progress. High praise from you, Sitak, I quipped, and relit the smoking candle, which was difficult with shaking hands. Yes, it is. The candle flickered to life, furnishing his face with a more sinister appearance. The Vinland families hold an event in the spring, he said in a relaxed tone I paid no attention to. What do you want? I held my chin high and crossed my arms over my chest. Tilly has many memories of them with Varin, but Kanika needs him there, and you will make it happen. Cantonek is close enough to your father's home to give you an excuse to request Tilly take you instead of sending Belia and Destiel. I disliked being asked to manipulate Tilly and bristled at being used as a pawn in Sitak's schemes. I wanted to hate him, but he showed only concern for his brother and Kanika. He produced results, but I didn't approve of how he accomplished them. What is it? He asked. I won't be someone who will control him for you. You may not fear me any longer. He took a large, firm step toward me, and the room darkened. But do not underestimate my influence. He pushed past me. I shuddered. Of course I feared him. The man terrified me. One swift backhand would send me reeling to my death. Yet I couldn't imagine him causing me harm. The emotions I already kept at bay were too much. I gasped and grabbed the mantle which steadied me. Are you all right, miss? The cook asked. I nodded, unable to answer. She waited while I calmed myself enough to speak. Here is the list. Please be sure to accommodate their servants, and Sibika brought an animal with her. I wouldn't hazard a guess about what to feed it. Raw meat and milk will do, I imagine. Would you mind if we discuss the dinner menu in the morning? No, miss. I'll send Mia up with hot tea. Thank you. The commissioned Sitak charged me with weight on me as I climbed the stairs, hoping to reach my quarters without attracting undue attention. A shadow passed through the hall, lit by Tally's drawing room. I gathered my strength to hide my state before I continued my ascent. He stood in front of the fireplace, both fists on the mantel, his head bowed. Will you ride with me tomorrow morning? His voice startled me, even though I'd expected it. I froze. Yes? I hoped the unsteadiness of my voice was not obvious. He approached and hovered on the threshold. Do you prefer to be called Lili? Yes. May I call you by that name? Yes. It was the lone answer I was capable of, and I ducked into my drawing room before he asked a question that required a thorough response. Once inside, I leaned against the doors as elation and fear swirled through me. Are you all right, Lili? Mia asked. I pressed my lips together. Your tea. I blew on it, taking in the relaxing herbal aroma as I sunk into an armchair before the fireplace. Had Tilly meant what he said? He had never taken it upon himself to request my company, and never for more than a chat. This would be away from the castle and watching eyes. It had to mean something. I sipped, turning my mind to the other problem at hand. Zuri, the Cantonek family is hosting an event in the spring. Do you know what it is? The octennial. When the word sparked no recognition, he continued. Each Vinland family hosts a wine tasting every 8 cycles. You would have been too young to remember the last. Why do you ask? I might want to attend. You have no Vinland family, and you don't like wine, Mia interjected. But it's near my home, and it's far from Alonji. You can't travel without family or guardian, she argued. My family no longer holds that right. Will you ask the king, miss? Zuri asked. I must. Mia shook her head at me. I wouldn't get your hopes up. My hopes weren't the problem. But that night, I dreamed of being home and Tilly with me. In the morning, I left my quarters early to plan dinner before I was to meet Tilly in the stables for our ride. "If Mia brought your breakfast on time for once," the cook said in disapproval. "Take something with you at least, miss." I hurried through the great hall, munching the pastry forced upon me, and held it in my mouth while I tried to pull on my boots. "Here, Red, let me help you," Cam said from behind me. "Thank you. I hate to be late." I placed a hand on his shoulder to balance myself on one foot while he slipped on my boot. "What's the hurry?" I stumbled, and he caught me. He lifted my red cloak off its hook and spread it behind my back. I lifted my chin and allowed him to tie it. He did so while staring into my eyes, sending a shiver through me. I pushed him away. "You are an unconscionable flirt." His smile broadened. "Where's your guard?" "I'm going with your father." "So you may keep your freedom until you reach the stables?" I scowled at him for referencing me as a prisoner. There are moments I miss my bodyguard following me. Moments like last night. His presence never affected Sitak's demeanor, but it lent me an impression of solidarity. "He will watch me the moment I open the door," I scoffed. "Who can resist such a treat?" His eyes smoldered. "Stop it!" "I can't. I was born this way." He smirked. I swayed my head and rushed out of the castle toward the stables, where Tilly held 2 horses absent his guard. The stable hands kept it exceptionally clean and groomed the horses to perfection when they were expecting Tilly. In the air was dirt and fresh straw, and I still didn't like it. "I'm sorry to keep you waiting, Tilly." He focused on the leather riding pants, which hugged my curves before lifting his gaze to my face. "It was no trouble," he said, helping me mount. I hadn't always been so fortunate. We walked the horses through the grounds along the Longy River, my stomach in knots, sensing his eyes on me. "What is it, my king?" "Why do you ask?" "I've grown accustomed to being watched by guards and servants, everyone. But not you." His cheeks lifted to his eyes, and he pursed his lips, perhaps to keep back a smile. "You are nearing maturity. I cannot figure out when it happened." My mind raced at the startling comment, and I struggled to steer the conversation elsewhere. "I've been thinking about that. Time passing, I mean, and I have a request." His hands tightened on the reins. I hated to waste a perfect day when he was in such a light mood, but if I lost my nerve, I would never ask. "I assume you received an invitation to the event on the Cantonite Vinlands?" His posture went rigid at its mention. "I should have known. The first invitation I received after Friend's entitlement ceremony was to attend the Cantonex." "Why did you not go?" "I came here." As I feared, he was silent for the rest of the ride, but he broke it as we arrived back at the stables. "I cannot allow you to go alone." "I wouldn't ask you to make an exception for me, but it's an opportunity to visit my father." "You may go with Belia, or I could send you with Sitak." "No. Attending with them would be miserable." "Thank you for considering my request. I knew it was unlikely, but I had to ask." I rushed to the gardens to clear my head. The space, the breeze, the trickling of the river water, and man-made waterfalls comforted me. But it was more than that. It was the sense of being productive. Soil blackened my fingertips as I dug a hole for a spiky blue aphyllatus flower. I lifted it to my nose, absorbing the spicy aroma before I placed it in its new home. Combined with the sweet soil, I closed my eyes and imagined home. But Sitak interrupted my reverie. "Why is my brother asking me to accompany you to the Actinial?" Sitak raged. This was coming. I hadn't expected it so soon, but I was glad to have it over. I brushed the dirt from my knees as I rose. "It was your idea to make me your ward. Varin's, to keep you safe, which sometimes I regret," he said, gnashing his teeth. "You know she sent for me?" I asked in disbelief. It was a lapse out of character for Sitak. "Did you not ask Telly to take you himself?" "He doesn't want to go. Why did the Queen—" "You do not want to go. I can make things difficult for you here, but if you cooperate, I do, but not with Belia or you." My entire body shook in outrage, in fear, in anticipation of answers to questions that arose at the mention of Varin. questions he wouldn't answer. I walked away as fast as I could without drawing the gardener's attention. How dare he threaten me?